Mr. Turk, what's the F in ATF stand for?
Firearms, sir.
And what is your mission with respect to firearms?
We have a dual mission, sir. We work with and regulate the industry, the gun industry, and we also enforce the federal firearms criminal laws.
And you wrote a white paper, I'm following up on Ms. Deming's questions, dated January 20th, and you testified that no one asked you to write that paper. You just kind of thought time for a white paper on the subject.
I did write the paper, sir. As I said, a lot of those thoughts came from others and myself that had been in the works for years, so I didn't necessarily develop it in and of itself.
Well, a lot of those thoughts read like an NRA white paper. Do you represent the NRA, or do you represent the American people at ATF?
Sir, I represent ATF, and with all due respect, sir, if you would read there are portions of that report that I believe, you could argue that there are portions of that report that...
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Turk, I represent victims from Virginia Tech in my district. We buried 6 young people, and I couldn't explain to them why an ATF agent or representative would think legalizing silencers might be a good idea, or rolling back dealer oversight with respect to law enforcement, allowing dealers to avoid reporting requirements. That's in your white paper. Considering dropping a proposed long-term sales records requirement that helps local law enforcement trace gun crimes, and having further discussion on curtailing the anti-trafficking program that requires dealers in western states to notify ATF of multiple sales of high-powered rifles. You think those are all measures to protect public safety? Is that your position?
Sir, they're all just discussion points.
Discussion points?
Yes, sir.
After everything this country has been through, you think it's time to have that discussion? You cited, in response to Ms. Demings, that what really spurred you was a change in administrations, correct?
I also indicated that I believe I would have written a paper had the
so did the
gone a different direction.
Okay, Ms. Demings comes from local law enforcement. I was the county chairman. I dealt with law enforcement in my county. Big city police departments came to you and said it's time that we actually unshackle these requirements. ATF would welcome this discussion, like Chicago, right?
Well,
or
sir,
New York?
I believe a lot of those issues in that paper have been and will continue to be discussed with law enforcement.
Did you discuss this white paper with the NRA?
No, sir.
You had no input from the NRA?
No, sir.
You had no outside input of any kind?
Well, sir, over time, we've had outside input from many organizations.
I am talking about your white paper, January 20th.
Well, yes, sir. Many of the ideas in my paper came from other organizations' issues over the years. None of them necessarily at that time frame, but of course, none of those are just mine. Those aren't just Ron Turk's ideas.
I'm going to take a page out of the chairman's book. Name one. What outside group?
For example.
How many, by the way? 8?
I don't know if I could give you a number, sir. I could give you an example, though.
No, how about you give me a group that helped,
sure.
that
yes,
you
sir.
talked to?
Yes, sir. One of the issues in the paper discussed licensing and the ability of licensees to sell only at gun shows. That issue was brought up through an organization that represents gun show.
What organization is that, Mr. Turk?
I can't remember the name, sir, but it's a gun show promoters organization. I can get back to you with the exact name. But they came to us with a written request for an answer from ATF. Can we, as an organization, license someone to be an FFL, a federal firearms licensee, that predominantly only sells?
Well, Mr. Turk, I want to give you one more chance. You're under oath. You had no conversation or input from the NRA on this paper?
No, sir.
Well, they must be doing a jig over at NRA headquarters, which is in my district. Having read this white paper, I must tell you, I would have a lot of trouble explaining your thoughts in this white paper to the victims I represent from Virginia Tech. I yield what little time I have to Ms. Demings if she wishes to pursue.